When someone says file format, the mental imagery often will turn to that traditional filing cabinet that's stuffed with those customary yellow-toned manila file folders. But this podcast will explain a very different kind of file format. File formats to create a podcast. A file format is the method used to save a video or audio file that are encoded, making them compatible with various types of software for replaying the original recording. The most popular file format for a podcast is an MP3, which is a patented audio digital encoding. During this podcast, I will describe for you the types of audio file formats that are commonly used, the importance of selecting the correct file format, and some of the problems that are created by selecting an incorrect file format. The term file formats is interesting and important because of the impact that your choice has on the pleasurable listening experience of the final product. If the podcast is not formatted correctly using the correct file extension, it may not be replayed using some electronic equipment. If the file format selected is not compatible with the software used by the listener, the podcast will not readily replay on hardware such as computers, handheld devices, or smartphones. The term file format describes the type of encoding that is used for a recording produced for the web or other computer-related materials. It allows a recording to be reproduced for hearing at a later time. Without the correct encoding, the recording that's created would not be audible by others or from various computerized hardware such as the iPod. The type of encoding that the original file is created in determines whether it will replay when you download it or stream it from the internet. Examples of file formats for a podcast include the MP3, M4A, WAV, AAC, WMA, and while the AAC produces a higher quality audio output, it is not as commonly used as the MP3 file format. How is this term related to the idea of digital media? Well, the most common file format for the podcast is the MP3 because it renders a file that is small while it maintains the quality of the audio output. It also makes your podcast compatible with a large variety of audio players and computers that are used to replay the podcast. File formatting for digital media also impacts the quality of your output. If the correct file format is not selected, the result can be a poor quality product that often results in low audience use. It can require viewers to download multiple software programs that are needed to play the particular podcast. With the use of aggregators, feed readers, and specific types of websites to distribute podcasts to large audiences, it is important that the product be formatted in a file extension that reproduces the original product in a good quality, while also being compatible with multiple players. In summary, when creating a podcast, make it a pleasurable experience for your user. It's important to consider your audience when who the podcast is targeting. If the recording is not formatted in the correct format, the user may not or may have difficulty getting a podcast to replay. Frustration resulting from incompatibility may cause some listeners to not listen to future podcasts, which is the opposite of the intent for creating most podcasts.